Hello everyone, welcome to the behind the scenes / commentary of my short animated series Knockback. There are a few things I want to go over before I get into this video, before I actually get into like the technical stuff and viewing the whole episode. Part 3, which obviously was just released with this, took a little bit longer than originally planned. I was hoping to get it done within the same time that Part 2 was released, which was, I think it was about 3 weeks, nearly a month, coming up on a month anyway. This took quite a bit longer. It took about a month and a half to make, although it was like a minute longer, although again a lot of that stuff, the last minute actually didn't take too long to animate anyway, but yeah, but mainly that was not just due to the length that I wanted to try out a lot of new things, and which will actually lead into what I was wanting to talk about before I started this video, why I was not really motivated to animate this series. With part 1 and part 2, I started finding it becoming very repetitive. I started losing interest, honestly, with animating the series. I wanted to move on to some new and different animations that I had in mind. It was just becoming very repetitive, a lot of fighting and just a lot of fight scenes. I started finding it rather annoying and boring. But along with part 3, I decided I was determined to finish this series. I didn't want to just leave it hanging. I've already done that with a lot of things. I've had a lot of ideas for other animations, but I just gave up on them. But with part 3, I wanted to try out a lot of new things, so I would be motivated enough to actually animate this, which you will end up seeing in part 3 if you've seen it already, unless you've actually watched this first. But either way, things like the teleportation beam, or just beam, new particle systems. I played around with the particles a bit more, actually properly did the material so that they actually faded out instead of just plopped when they ran out of life, which makes no sense, but yeah, I wanted to try out some new things, so obviously thus taking longer and also being a bit longer. And obviously why I wanted to include a few different scenes, like the prototype lobby, so I could get a break from actually seeing this. It started getting a bit annoying, but yeah, I also wanted to include credits. I wanted to end out the series well with having a bit more plot and stuff. Part 1 was very plain, to be honest. It was just a lot of fighting. There was barely any plot to it, apart from the very end, where Herobrine blinks and he's now Steve, impersonating to be Steve anyway, which that was the original idea. That Herobrine is obviously trying to trick me, Mon27p, into believing that he was Steve, and then obviously later tries to kill him at the end of part 2. Obviously the real Steve wakes back up after being knocked out previously, and tries to kill the fake Steve / Herobrine, or the real Herobrine, which obviously doesn't work, and he kills both of us and goes on to fight all the remaining survivors, ending up eventually, practically losing, not necessarily losing, but I may explain that later. But yeah, in terms, I do apologize, this may take a while to get to the actual stuff. Also, in the description I also link the times to certain things, like getting into the technical stuff for part 1, part 2, part 3. So if you want to go straight to the technical stuff, I'll or even in a pinned comment, I'll put the times down there, probably in the description. If they're not, then I was just lazy, but yeah, skip to them if you don't want to listen to this. But basically, in terms, this actual series started out long time ago. Like the originally this was actually going to be a Skywars animation. When I first started brainstorming ideas for it, it was going to be Skywars. That was when I started animating it on my old PC, which I obviously now use a laptop, which is definitely a lot better. but everything was going to be different. It was going to be called Sky Wars. All the people in it, everything was basically different. The map was the same, but back then I didn't actually really have an idea. Really, as you probably saw by the April Fool's video that I made when I released part 2, I think it was. I put this in here. Or that was the thumbnail, sorry, actually, and that was actually gonna be the thumbnail. Obviously then things changed. I changed the name to Knockback, and yeah, and it's now what it is now. It was always gonna be a 3-parter, but I didn't really have any good ideas for it back then. I'm decently happy with the final result now. Overall, apart from obviously being not so motivated to animate it, I was pretty happy with the outcome. There are a lot of things that I could have done better, or may have not seemed that well, or some glitches and stuff that I noticed after rendering and whatnot, but overall I'm actually pretty happy with it. This series was honestly mainly there to help test me and my ability to animate. Some things I'm kind of not happy with, or things that I'm not very good at yet, is kind of like the sound design and picking music. You can kind of blame a program on that, especially with audio for music. I can't really blend in objects or fade in or fade out music, sorry. I can't really fade in or fade out music very well. I can't even keyframe audio to drop down quietly for a bit and then go back to loud. I have to cut the audio and then kind of fade it all the way out, and then it sounds sketchy, so I don't want to do that. For the overview of the episodes, I'm honestly going to be going over things pretty quickly. Mainly because really a lot of it really all comes down to style in the end. I don't really need to show you what I've animated because you've already seen it in the animation. The more stuff that I will be showing you are things like the particle systems, how did I do them, and maybe some of the materials like Herobrine's eyes or something, how did I animate them to flash and whatnot. The teleportation beam, or I keep saying teleportation beam, the beam, the lighting, really when it comes to the actual animation, I think a lot of people kind of feel the same way. You don't really need to show them that because it's nothing really new. It's really all just up to kind of your own style. Yeah, I'll be skipping over a lot of the animation itself very quickly. More stuff I will be explaining is, as I said before, the lighting, all the other special effects and stuff, but the animation itself doesn't really need to be gone over that much. I can explain things. I will go over it just rather quickly. Obviously here, this is part 1. I'll be going over the whole episode, by the way. So obviously in part 1, as I said before, the original idea for part 1, or the idea, there wasn't really much of an idea for part 1. I just went and animated. I didn't have any major plot ideas for part 1 apart from Herobrine. Herobrine trying to impersonate Steve, which you could say I kind of got the idea of that from Black Plaster Studios animation, I think it was Animation Life, which you should definitely go check them out, go support them. Most of you already know that I'm a pretty big fan of them. Honestly, a lot of the stuff I do involves around them, also including them in the animations and whatnot, but yeah, it was kind of him with the... Oh, actually, by the way, there's a Yi down there, if you didn't notice. If you haven't found the Yis, there's one of them. There's a Yi. that's a Yi if you don't know what it looks like. But yeah, but the original idea was basically brought by that concept, where Herobrine was basically Steve, and he's fighting over who he wants himself to be, kind of thing. Well, not necessarily in this, but that's for Animation Life. Not to my Animation Life, I did make the alternate ending, but... Anyway, yeah, basically just opening scene, everybody's in their cages, ready to be dropped. Annoyingly, I regret doing it. I should have animated these guys here while the camera was moving. Annoyingly, it actually shows in the animation they're still, like, because obviously glass is transparent, you could see them. I won't render it out now, I don't have a very good rendering computer, but in the animation you can see that they're just still, they're not moving. And I got rather annoyed by that, and so I kind of regret not animating them here. But yeah, they're standing there still. The camera just pans around and goes to everybody in the cages. I also regret all these poses. Part 1, you gotta realize part 1 was made like 4 months ago, I think it was. I'm still improving, I'm still learning a lot, which is really all there is to it, just learning and improving and whatnot. But yeah, everybody's in their cages. I wanted to team up a lot of people instead of just having people by themselves, but I had some people by themselves and some people in groups, but yeah. So here, gosh, Sam Small drinking his tea, which again, some of you may have not, may been confused by all these moments with kind of Arbiter at the end of part 3, jumping at me with the pizza. Arbiter's known for loving his pizza, and Sam's also known for his tea, so I kind of decided, oh, maybe Sam could be drinking his tea, and like throughout the whole animation, which he actually ended up, basically every single shot he was in, he was drinking his tea, even during the fights later on, and obviously in the lobby scene at the end, but he's drinking his tea. I didn't give him pizza here, but either way, he's still there. It's like, why are you drinking your tea? We're about to go into battle. And now they're basically dropping, so again, as I said, I'll be going over all this stuff pretty quickly. Maybe even what I found hard and whatnot. I almost forgot to properly animate these. Well, I technically didn't properly animate them. You actually see they're basically, I just keyframe them to fall. They just fall and nothing else. They're not even properly animated. But yeah, code, code.d, it's opening chests and whatnot. Yeah, that's right, I wanted to have a friend of mine on Discord. I wanted to include some kind of funny scenes here. Had one person fall straight off the map. It's like spawn was kind of not quite above the island. It's kind of fallen off. And again, there's another Yi. Up here. Here's actually pretty easy to find. I think the Yis in part 1 were actually pretty easy to find. You had more people just getting stuff out of the chests. Now this is actually where the action starts to begin. Someone's grabbing stuff out of the chest. You know, you kind of hear something. It's like, what? What's that? The first signs of action and whatnot. I kind of wanted to have, you can't see the person over here, like the first couple frames. I want to just have the sword pop out from behind and knock him off the edge, kind of thing. Again, another fight I'm not very happy with in the end. I apologise for the scratching of the audio, the scrubbing. I mean, it's okay, but kind of there's the swords going through each other. And then obviously the derp's like, yeah, I'm all epic, I'm gonna like kill everybody, and falls in the hole. Obviously being the derp and whatnot, but excuse me, sorry. And then yeah, basically the camera just backs away. The music's not actually meant to be playing there. It fades off in the actual animation. You can hear it's still going after even the keyframing. Yeah, might as well move on to scene 2 now. Oh yeah, by the way, with part 1, this was actually the only animation that I pre-picked the music and animated to, as you saw there, or heard there, that I animated over the music instead of animating then picking music later. Both ways it can be better. If you animate over the music, you can kind of get things to be more in time, go more in time with the beat and whatnot. Whereas doing the music after, a lot of the time it's hard to find the right music that will kind of fit with the animation. It'll go in beat with the animation, with the camera changes or with the fighting or whatnot. Or even yeah, just making it the right length and whatnot to fit with that scene kind of thing. Which is why I did it with part 1. With part 2 and 3 I didn't, mainly because, well, I was technically lazy, and I don't know if everybody else does. That's not really why. I was kind of lazy and I just wanted to animate it. Kind of just got into animating it. I was kind of like, the first scene for part 2 doesn't really need it, so I kind of just went along, but then as I kept animating, I just went without a bang. Here we have scene 2. Again, there's nothing really special here. I'm just going through the chests. Annoyingly, again, in the animation, another thing I kind of noticed was the knockback stick is actually floating above the hand. You can actually see that clearly in the animation because it glows. Well, it's got the mission material on it, so it's gonna glow. If I go here, oh, actually, that is something I can definitely show. Come here, stick. Actually, I might go forward a bit. I'll explain that probably at the end when I get to the next bit. So, Steve's just waiting for me since he's my partner, I guess. He's just leaning on the pole. Some other people come and try and attack them. I actually forgot. Oh, I don't know if I forgot or if it's just an error, but when it came to editing, I either forgot or, again, the error didn't put in the hit or sword sound effect, whichever one I went for. So it was kind of silent there while he whacked Spin Town out of the way. And there's me, I actually put the stick inside the hand this time, which was better. So actually, I think it was actually pointing out of the tip right here, which again may not wasn't very good, but obviously I get the knockback stick out. It doesn't update in the viewport, so don't worry about that. But what layer is this in? Oh crap, that's not what I meant to do. For the actual material, actually I can just split this here. If I split this down here, split area, go to node editor, get rid of that. I don't know if I'll necessarily explain it all. If you want to know how to do this properly kind of thing, because I think I stuffed some things up, I would recommend watching Arbiter617's tutorial on enchantments to get like an item to look enchanted. I'll leave that in the link below. I'll even try and put a card. I haven't actually used them yet, so I'll try and figure out how to use them. But yeah, if you want to properly know how to do that, I would probably watch that. I will go over it quickly kind of thing, kind of explain what it does. This second layer is just a second one to kind of make it more detailed, but come here, thank you. It's basically, I don't even know. So it's basically just a noise texture. If you don't know what noise is, I'll actually put a picture up on screen. It's kind of just imagine like your old TVs kind of thing. It's like fuzzing and whatnot, or just black and white splotches. The black kind of controls one area, or that controls a certain color, or a certain effect. Where in this case, instead of obviously just being noise in like turbulence for affecting particles, it's affecting the color. So the white sections, it's not the black, it will actually be the white sections, will be coloured or have this effect, whereas obviously all the black areas aren't going to be affected. So obviously these, if I grab the, well, what happened? Sorry. If I grab the scale and scale, I think this will work anyway. If I grab the scale, oh actually, sorry. I need to go into rendered version here to actually see it. If I go into here and kind of scale it all the way up, you'll kind of see it a bit better, I think. You kind of see more actions areas where there's kind of more black areas and white areas and whatnot. It's basically the black areas of the noise are just going to be no effects, and then the white areas will kind of fading into the whites will have the effect. That's basically all it really is. Obviously you put that through, like, you add like saturation and stuff, brightness, to kind of get these kind of more partly transparent areas, and like mucking around with the colours to kind of get it to go to blue, making it an emission so it's not just a diffuse where it's like plain and doesn't emit and whatnot. and obviously you add that to the normal texture for the stick, because it's still going to look like a stick, so got the normal image texture mixed with this kind of enchantment effect. I also decided to kind of duplicate that, as I said before, and add a second layer and kind of fiddle around with the values a bit more to get like a second layer, to add more detail. So I found what I ended up doing, there are a lot of gaps where there's like nothing, no effects, or too much effects on the thing. It's probably because of the scale, but I couldn't get it to be very good, so I kind of added the second layer to help with that. Then the mapping's just actually making the texture move, so I've animated the location. And then I'm not 100% sure what that does, it's just mapping the noise, I guess, that it's texturizing it. But if you actually want to understand it, again, I'd just recommend going and watching the thing. So I'll drag that back over there, go back into material view, and carry on. Okay, I've got to get back all my layers though. Anyway, so he gets knocked back, thrown into pole again. Sam Small with his tea drinking. But it's just like, why you should be... We're in a fight, why are you drinking your tea? Again, another year over there. I think that's the third year. I think there's only one more year. And Herobrine finally comes in. In terms of his eyes, as I said, I might as well do this. Actually, what one is this? Hold on, sorry. With the eyes, I believe I had to actually delete... Sorry. I had... Basically, all the body parts and stuff have drivers, although I don't even know exactly what they do. I had to kind of delete the drivers to actually do things like deleting the pupil, so it's only the eye whites. Just to actually... I think I could actually add... No, I think I could do the emissions without it, but... Wait, what? Oh yeah, I had to delete the drivers just so I could emit particles from them and stuff like that, which was rather annoying, but in the end I could do it. But actually, I need to go into face objects. Okay, so the pupils were deleted, the eye whites just had an emission material. Normally it's set to diffuse, which is just your kind of general color. It doesn't emit, it's just kind of plain like this, so you know that doesn't glow and whatnot. The emission obviously gives it an emission, it makes it glow. And then when it actually goes to the lighting, which I might as well go through now, this area here called boosh, I guess, or practically a blur or a glare, kind of makes it bushy. It basically just glares it. It gives it a glare. You know, when you look at the sun, it's like it's all booshed out and whatnot. But I don't know how to explain it. I just use the same terms as other people. That's black plasma. Anyway, I'm just gonna move that over. In terms of the rest of the composition, that's just the image, and it's going through for the mist. It basically just goes through a mapping, which I can then add more mist. This size thing here adds or takes, if you want to take more mist. Look, the color down here, you choose for your mist color. It's mixing the mist along with basically the image, which then goes through obviously the boosh / glare into the add, which is adding obviously a normal image with the mist to the boosh and compositing that, which technically that's the end there. This is actually pretty simple. Like the compositing here, this is actually pretty simple. There are some really complex compositings out there that have like 10 times more like nodes all the way and whatnot. Even the stick had more technical compositing, and again the beam that I'll be showing later has even more. Yeah, this is actually starting to get pretty long. I was hoping for it to be more like 20 minutes, but it's already 30 minutes in. So I think that was actually most of the stuff in here. They're like, oh, you see Herobrine, he teleports over. This particle, I'll quickly go over the particle system. was the main thing I wanted to go over, actually. For the particle system, if I go into main body, again I had to actually delete the thing. Go over to the particle system here. I'm not going to go over how to do this, because, again, I really don't have the time, and there's a lot to explain about particles. It's not necessarily too hard to get your head around, but there is a lot to learn about it. Like, it's pretty simple to do a lot of the stuff here. This first particle system that I used was different to the one in part 3. This one was pretty simple. No, I don't want to do that. This one was pretty simple. I just keyframed the camera, didn't I? No, I didn't. Okay, never mind. Yeah, this particle system was actually pretty simple. Basically, it just had a bit of velocity. It's kind of the starter force that it gets emitted out at. That's just default. Set the size. I turned the Brownian all the way up, which is just erratic particle movement. So it's making it randomly move about and whatnot. If I turn that all the way down, it's kind of going to go out very linear and pretty much in a line, I guess. Then obviously I basically choose end particles to render instead. By default it renders these things called a halo, which I don't even think properly renders, which is kind of like this spherical, I don't even know 100% what it is. It's just kind of like a spherical object thing that actually gets rendered. But obviously I wanted the end particles to render, which I ended up doing. Set it to that, and yeah, I'm kind of wanting to get through this one. I more want to explain stuff about part 3, because that was the most interesting episode to me. Again, his tea gets knocked out, so it's like, no. Again, as I was saying, he's always singing with his tea. Because he wants to, basically tries to revenge his tea. It's like, oh, you knocked my tea out of your hand, so I'm going to kill you. Draws his sword, kind of thing. And he is one of those players that kind of want to hide away from all the fighting. He's just standing on a ledge. Obviously, I have nothing against the player. I just wanted to add in some funny moments. So he's kind of hiding on the ledge. And I wanted to have... Annoyingly, I originally had the animated block breaking thing in here. But for some reason, when I put this up on Sheepit, which is a render farm that I use, it doesn't render the actual animation for it. I believe it's probably because of a driver issue. But yeah, I originally had that there, so the block breaks, he falls. Idea was the grandpa, which that skin is actually wrong, broke the block underneath him and he falls to his death. That took a little bit of time to animate for memory, but yeah, Sam eventually gets knocked off. Don't mind the random bit of jump at the very start. Arbiter's like, no, lost my teammate, so I better run. That turn was very bad. I don't like that anymore. Yeah, so he's running off, and Herobrine's just staring at him like, oh, I'm going to get you later. Something I kind of need to remember to work on as well is if I can get to it, the focal length. I don't adjust the focal length a lot, and I probably should. It definitely is very handy. Honestly, you can get a lot of different details. I did use it a bit in part 3, although not a lot, but basically it's, just making things seem far away or close or squashed up towards you kind of thing. But yeah, that was scene 2. Now, I'll move on to, scene 3. Okay, and then for scene 3 is probably the happiest, the best scene I animated in my opinion. There's still obviously a lot of things off from it, but by watching the animation, or from me watching the animation, I noticed that I'd made a decent amount of improvements since then. But I was honestly pretty happy with this one in the end. So basically Spawn comes up, he's got his knockback stick again, which I've already gone over. And comes up to Raining Pigs here. Raining Pig's seen someone on the island. He's Zomblad over here. He's got a snowball. He's going to try and knock these guys off. And there's a bit more of another fight scene. I'm decently happy with it. I mean, that bit was a bit strange. This throw was a bit off too, and the animation. The camera tries to follow the snowball, he catches it. I was pretty happy with that catch, but this avoid here was honestly not that good. Mainly because it's mostly linear. I think that was linear. But yeah, so he's like, oh, don't throw your snowball back at me, or don't throw my snowball back at me. And so they're trying to basically defend off these two players attacking them. Spawn, knocks Ozaranium here off the edge with his knockback stick, obviously, since it's a knockback stick. Which, again, being this series was called since this series was called Knockback, I wanted originally to include a lot of knockback weapons or related things. Knockback sticks, bows and arrows, snowballs and stuff. I kind of ditched that idea when it came to part 2 and mainly part 3. There wasn't a lot of knockback stuff involved. It more turned into Skywars / Hacker from Herobrine, but yeah, that's kind of what it ended up turning to. I was pretty happy with this too. He grabs the bow and shoots him in the head. That was a bit sketchy, but and then basically they think they're all good, and Herobrine comes and kills him with a sword, and he's dead. And there you go, he lands in, and oh yeah, that's right, and then the eyes, which are animated. And so here he sees Steve fighting Spintown. More reason I want to show Steve, because it's like, okay, here's Steve, so, oh, and now here's Steve. No, now here's Herobrine impersonating to be Steve. Basically, actually, hold on, sorry, I've got to go back to here. So basically all I really did was, if I go back to the eyes, go to pupils, basically I just keyframed here the pupils to turn on. So here they're off to be Herobrine, and now they're on as his eyes are closed. When he opens them, he's now Steve. The same with the actual material. What? Oh, sorry, wrong one. Go back to eye whites. It's a mix. So come here, please come here. The eyes, basically, it's basically animated, so this mix shader is saying either it's going to be an emission, or wait, why is there a diffuser? A diffuser is not meant to be there. That should not be there. It's either going to go through an emission or a diffuse. This mix shader along with the factor here is saying when it's at 1, fully at 1, it's picking 100% of the material is going to be a diffuse, which is just your normal kind of eyes. Whereas if I turn this to 0, it's saying 100% of the material is going to be an emission. If it's halfway, it's going to say it's going to be half emitting and half diffuse. So basically by keyframing that, if I actually delete that keyframe, it's basically just saying it's going to keyframe from a diffuse or an emission to a diffuse. So that's basically all it's saying. Yeah, and obviously that's the end of part 1. Now I can go on to part 2. Yeah, I only had one scene here again because I decided not to do the music. I mean, I had the thumbnail there too. Just gotta show the lagginess of this as I boot up the program. I have to load the whole scene every time I do the thing. Oh, lag. Much. Oh, it doesn't like this badge all the time. But yeah, actually, that's better. Okay, anyway, so basically, I've just struck down another player that I was fighting, turn around, see Steve, not really Steve, Herobrine, the impersonating Steve, and obviously I'm relieved to see him. I was like, come on, let's go. So he was like, I'm gonna try and fool him and whatnot, and then obviously it reveals the actual Steve along with a Yee back here, just poking his head out of the ground. I think it was a little bit too obvious because he kind of, I think he pops back down too fast. Yeah, he pops back down. Now the dirt, oh yeah, that's it, yeah, the dirt falls down. If you watched to the end of part 1, you would have seen kind of the post-credit scene, which I don't want to show because I can't be bothered. where he's like still stuck there. He's like angry. He's like, come on, I want to get out. So now he's kind of finally pulling himself out. It's like, oh, I've been in there forever, just stretching his back. Someone tries to sneak up. Ooh. Never mind, I did not mean to have the sword going through her head. Someone tries to sneak up, and she finally dies. And, oh yeah, so she gets a fish thrown at her. You watch in from the side. She's about to strike the steed. Strike Derp. Derp's like, huh? Gets a fish thrown at her face, and she basically loses her balance. The sword and fish both fall to the ground, and she falls in the hole. And so the derpy grandpa / old man throws the fish. And it's like, whoa, still throwing it very slowly, because he knows a grandpa. The lighting under here was interesting. I spent a bit on it. Honestly, I'm not that happy with it. Again, the particles were bad. I did have a particle system for it, as you can see here, I think. Hold on. Yes, I basically just have this massive icosphere, which is kind of like a sphere, but not a sphere. It's like a sphere with but with less faces. Where am I going? No, come back. Go to mesh. You've got a UV sphere, which is more like a sphere than an icosphere, which is less faces. Actually, maybe it was an icosphere. Anyway, I've had this sphere, and I set the particles to basically emit within the volume instead of the faces. If it emitted from the faces, it would kind of like emit away from it. But obviously, if I had it to volume, it would kind of, the particles would stay within the size of the icosphere. So obviously, that way I could get kind of like a nice volumetric, kind of moody feel with having some particles in like a dark room, add a bit of lighting and effect. Don't mind the colour of the diamonds, they actually looked fine in the animation. This is actually separate from the, don't mind me, this is actually separate from, I think, is this? Yeah, no, it's not Stone of Sega. It's actually separate from the actual stone itself. It's just, there's the actual diamond. It's just like a transparent stone thing, which it only shows the diamonds. That way I could set an emission to it so that the diamonds actually glow. I believe in terms of light sources I just added I think it's an area lamp. No, this one must be a spot. Yeah, this one's a spotlight, and then there's an area light over there. I don't know why I did two different ones, but basically I think it's just kind of like a white light, no, like a yellowy kind of light shining in to give a bit of a mood. Can I have my thing back? Thank you. And then obviously the particles and whatnot, but yeah, it was very, very dark without it. I had a couple tests which I'll show in the video, but it was very dark. Even with these lights, it's still pretty dark, but in the end, it could have been worse. I definitely would be reanimating those particles if I could. I'd actually put the kind of the fading out thing I had on the ender pearls, ender particles in part 3 on these, which again I kind of go into that later. So he's trying to sneak up and kill him. Someone else comes up behind, stabs him. So you find basically here was the idea. You know, he looks over and sees that I'm not there anymore. So it's like, where did it go? And obviously I've already grabbed all the items from the chest. I'm like, huh? Why are you looking over there? I was like, oh, okay, you're already there. Okay, never mind. And then the actual Steve wakes up, and someone else is trying to sneak up on him to see if he's alive, kind of thing. He gets stabbed, if this doesn't lag so much. Again, the guy over here is like, okay, let's go around the corner. Tiger Girl over here tries to attack him. Have a quick little sword fight, which is very short. Again, very repetitive. I started getting annoyed at this. I really need to improve on my fighting animations, which is this is kind of a test to help me get better at them. Honestly, I think I've improved since this, but they're still not that good. Little fight came, yes. Annoyingly, again, something I regret, I forgot to animate the feet while she fell. So they're just stuck in that position while she falls down. She kind of phases halfway through the floor. Again, I kind of forgot to animate the sword, so the sword goes into the ground as Arbiter stabs him in the back. Although overall I was kind of happy with this ending though. Mostly anyway. He trips over nothing, technically. Obviously being the derp, he's meant to be a bit clumsy. Yeah, so basically, they're not on the same team, but because, again, I use a lot of references and stuff from Black Plasma Studios, the derp and Arbiter are practically friends, and so they're basically happy to see each other, say, hey derp. It's like, trips over, it's like, oh, you're clumsy. Obviously, he hears people behind him, Mont and Steve. I'm not happy. Mont and Steve comes in, he finds a good chance to try and kill me. Arbiter sees this, and then the actual Steve comes in, as I was saying before, and tries to kill him. The arrow kind of stuffed up here, and it was kind of, actually no, wait, never mind, it didn't. Okay, before I thought it was, the arrow was here one frame, then the next second it was in his head. So it kind of didn't come in like that, it was kind of like 1 second, or one frame, and then the next frame. So he tries to sneak up on me, he sees that, he gets shot in the head, goes down in pain. I'm like, what? It's two Steves. And then obviously the same thing I did there with the keyframing of the eyeballs and the material. And then yeah, I kind of wanted to include this concept that Herobrine, since he's practically a virus, I kind of wanted to have it that you can manipulate the scene, so I could bring in like spawn mobs or summon blocks or place blocks in front of you very quickly, whatnot. So I made it that you can kind of send these obsidian pillars flying towards you. And really, in theory, this isn't actually original. I got the idea actually by Mr. Fudge Monkeys. He's got an animation series called Annoying Villages. Honestly, a really good series. I'm really enjoying it. Again, I would actually recommend you to watch it if you're bored or something. But yeah, he basically kills me, or actually, sorry, Steve, or yes, me too, at the start of part 3. Now I can actually finally move on to part 3. I'm actually going over this a lot slower than I wanted. Jeez, I've got a lot of things here. Scene 1, I only had one scene. I had a lot of bloopers. As probably also could have seen, I decided to make a blooper video for this too. Why are you not responding? Okay. This scene is rather large for memory, so there's a lot of blocks I had to bring in. So, again, the start of the episode, Herobrine sending the pillar towards Steve, gets knocked backwards. The depth of field was insane here. This is like the most insane depth of field. Every other shot wasn't so strong, but this one was. Again, there's actually a bit of a glitch here, which I didn't notice if I go back a couple frames. Yeah, here you go. I noticed this too much while after I actually rendered this. I was a bit annoyed by that. One frame after the other, just, yeah, I don't really like that. It basically just glitched back down, and that was rather annoying. But yeah, so I'm like, oh no, you killed my friend. And then he kills me, so rip me. I didn't want me to win, so I kind of wanted other people to win. Here's kind of the first glimpse of the dragon egg, which if you actually also paid attention to, it's not textured properly. The rig that I found this in, all the rigs I found this in actually, it wasn't UV wrapped properly, or if it was, yeah, I think it was UV wrapped. It wasn't UV wrapped properly, so I kind of had to muck around with them, moving around random I had to move around random faces to try and get it to look a bit better. I wasn't bothered. I couldn't be bothered moving around and spending like a couple hours just to properly fix up the egg, so I tried to make it look as best as it could, considering, you know, it wasn't going to get a lot of screen time, but, yeah, so he pulls away the egg, he's running away. Again, I'm not very happy with that turn. It kind of slows down at the end. It took me a while to try and get that to look good enough. And then here's where I actually, oops, he's got his eyes closed, got the eye, sorry. Here's where I actually used kind of the better particles, I guess, where they actually kind of fade out over time instead of just disappearing. Especially the fire particles, I should have used something like this for. But in terms of the particles, if I go back to rig 6 and let's go leg, sure. Go into particle system. Nothing here was very different. Again, it was just on faces. All that's the same. Less velocity this time. No random or no other. There's a bit of rotation, but I had that before. The size was a little bit smaller. There's way less Brownian, and I will kind of tell you why later. Again, and particles, which I'll actually show the material after this, and that's starting to bother me. Okay, but basically, obviously, I turn the gravity off, so gravity doesn't pull them down. But in the end, I basically uses turbulence to affect it. Where is it here? Turbulence. It's basically turbulence. It's, as I was saying before with the noise, that's basically all it is. It's basically just a noise pattern, where the areas that are black are kind of going to say the wave should go this way, and the white areas are going to tell it the particles to go another way. So by cranking up the things, kind of notice here, there's kind of this big wave that comes out over here kind of thing. I think that was actually a little bit too big. You can kind of see better up here, it kind of goes down, back up kind of thing, so there's like a white area kind of down here, all up here, it's like a black area here telling it to go back this way, whatnot. So yeah, I added the turbulence kind of thing. Give it a bit more like a wind effect, like it's blowing this way. Don't mind the fact that some things are white, that's just the fact that the material was a bit strange. Now if I actually go to the end particle here, oh actually, oh good, okay, never mind. Each particle has this new, whoa, what did I do? Sorry. Each particle has this new material that, well, it's actually not new, I didn't develop it, I practically again learned it from the particle tutorial, which if you want to learn about particles and other stuff, I'll again link it below in the description. But basically basically it's saying with the particle info that the age and the lifetime are divided by this color. So it's saying, just imagine this ramp here. At the start it's saying 0 to 1. This is basically representing the lifetime. So over its lifetime it's going to start out kind of being a lighter pink and then fade into a purple as it's nearing the end of its life, which is, you can kind of see in here, but it honestly works better in rendered view. That, oh, I don't think that actually rendered properly. Why is that going the complete opposite way? Anyway, basically it's saying it's going through that. Here, it's saying, there's two emissions which I'll kind of explain why. It's saying here, it's an emission, but it's going into the bottom shader. This emission here is basically saying the actual, normally when you put an emission on something, it makes something brighter, right? This is basically what that is saying. It's saying the strength of the emission, which is at 1, which is just normal, it's going to be its normal brightness. Then if you take this emission, it's saying it's going to emit more light, but it's not going to affect the actual brightness of the animation of the particle. So you can turn that all the way up. It's going to glow. It's going to emit a lot more light, so the light's going to reach further kind of thing, but it's not going to affect the brightness. If I turn, I believe I'll be able to show it here. So if I turn this brightness up, see how it's affecting the actual particles. 1 is just normal brightness, whereas if I turn this one up, you can see it's not affecting the particles. But obviously, if I had an object, which you can actually kind of see there, if I turn that all the way up, it's emitting more light, but it's not affecting the brightness of the object, so you could kind of see there if you turn that all the way up that it's emitting a bit more light. Yeah, you can see a bit there if you crank that all the way up, but that's basically what that's saying. But yeah, that's just gone through a mixed shader saying both of them. Oh yeah, okay, so that's actually how it works. So I don't 100% get the light path node. It's basically saying, this is just saying the factor, the camera ray determines which takes place or what one does what kind of thing. I can't really explain it, you may have to watch the particle tutorial or something. But I also wanted to mix that with a transparent colour. I can't remember why I put that there, or if that was actually just because it was there in the tutorial. But basically, that's... okay, yeah, so this particle thing, as I was saying before, which determines the lifetime of the colour, also determines, again, the same thing that I was explaining about the noise. The black areas will say when it's at its full brightness. The white areas will say when it's partly faded, or fully faded when it's white. Basically, that's what it's saying here. So it's going to start out very faint, kind of go into a more solid state, and fade out. That's basically what this is saying. That atop of obviously the colour is saying that it's going to start out kind of white and very basically partly faded. It's going to fade into a purple at the same time while fading out as it nears the end of its lifetime for the particle, which I do not have here, surprisingly. If I go back to leg, yeah, lifetime, so each particle has a lifetime of 100, or not necessarily, it's got a random lifetime, so go back to particle here, and yeah, that's basically what it's saying. That's basically the best way I could explain it. And then obviously I've used this particle system really ever since then, which is technically only now. But yeah, that's the new particle system that I went with. I'll drag that back over and actually continue on. That was the other main thing that I was wanting to show. And I'll go over the rest of this pretty quickly. Okay, so he draws his sword, attacks, and that sword actually, half of his body actually phases through the wall. Another thing I kind of noticed after I rendered. Then it goes to the derp. It's like, oh, they're under attack. I mean, they're attacking each other, so let's go over and help. So he tries to build over. I got rather lazy with the faces here. I did animate the faces, but not very well. Actually also, for this isn't actually the actual rigs for them. You actually notice that there's another duplicate down here. Mainly because this is actually a loop right here, a very bad loop in my opinion. I made it, but I'm not very happy with it. The first loop that you saw where he attacked him once, that was okay. Although that loop actually kept going when the camera cut to the dirt. But this one, honestly, I wasn't very happy with. But basically, I just brought up this loop, I kind of keyframed it to start down below, and then I switched them so that the loop now comes above and starts playing. The fighting goes on. Again, I'm not very happy with it, and then it goes back under eventually and brings the actual rigs back up. Mainly because when copying the frames onto another rig, especially something like this fight loop, kind of stuffs up previous things depending on how you've keyframed it down there. So I think I did actually try it, and then it kind of stuffed it up, so I decided to just use the loop and kind of put these guys down below for the moment. But yeah, so then obviously actually might as well go back into camera, tries to sneak up with his fish and whack him in the face. Obviously Herobrine notices him and knocks it out of his hand with another obsidian pillar. Arbiter gets out the dragonet that we saw at the start of the episode, throws it. Oh look, we've got an end dragon. Oh wait, it's just a baby. Because it came from an egg, I kind of wanted to put in the joke that because it came from an egg, it's not going to start out big, and technically because it comes from an egg, it's meant to start out small. So here's a baby dragon. It's like, oh, never mind. And Herobrine's just like, huh, I have something better, and brings up his Ender Dragon. The wings kind of face through the wall, but never mind. I was, in the end, pretty happy with how I animated the Ender Dragons, mainly because it was the first time I've animated Ender Dragons or something that big. It didn't actually take too long. It wasn't too hard, and then again with the particles. With this particle system, but anyway, sorry. Yeah, that honestly wasn't too bad. But with this particle system, if I can even select there it is. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so for the particles, I've got a rather low lifetime. Everything's pretty similar. Really, the only main thing was that I made it that it emits from the y-axis. So that if that was at 0 and then I just gave it like a normal velocity, it would kind of emit at any random location. So I turned that to 0, or even if I had that at 1, it would kind of still randomly emit, but turn that to 0 and put so that it emits along the z-axis. Yes, I know it says the z along here, but it's saying the z for this plane here. The actual z-axis for this object is actually across there because it originally started like that. Well, not exactly like that, but yeah. Yeah, so I made it that it emitted along there, so it kind of emits in a relatively straight line. It kind of eventually spreads out like a shotgun kind of thing. And then for you may notice, it may look like at first that none of the particles are just going through, but if you actually go above, the particles are actually being blocked by the shield. So basically, how I did that is if I grab this shield, well actually it's the plane on the shield, I tried putting, basically, I gave this a collision, so basically when particles collide with it, the particles will bounce back. I tried putting this collision thing on the shield itself, but I think it's stuffed up for some reason, so I brought in this plane and parented it to the shield so that when I move the shield, it'll kind of stay with it. Obviously if I move that, it's not going to, but that's basically what I did. So those particles kind of bounce back abruptly kind of thing. If I bring everything back in again, because it just runs so much better when I do that anyway. So yeah, so he drops his shield, Herobrine is secretly hiding behind it, and now this is the actual thing I wanted to show. Though, actually I'll go through the rest of the animation quickly, because this is basically the last thing I wanted to explain. So he basically shrinks down into the portal. The derp tries to sneak up on him. He gets some obsidian and basically quickly blocks him with the particles. I was trying to think of a better word to say there. A quick block place trick, quick block placing trick. I don't know. He just blocks him, and if you actually also notice, he doesn't cover the top up. Which obviously if you notice in the alternate endings, which is why I had that alternate ending, where the derp throws the fish at him and knocks him off the edge, and he's popping out the top. If you're confused about that, that's because he's not covered at the top. So I realized after that, I actually had a couple people telling me that, oh, why don't you just make it that the derp jumps out or something, because it's not blocked at the top. I was like, oh yeah. So I decided to kind of include that as an alternate ending, where he kind of, since he wasn't blocked at the top, he could just climb out and throw a fish at him or something and knock him off the edge. And obviously he tries to knock him back in, but, you know, as a defense, knocks him back with obsidian. And it's like, haha, I have obsidian. And then the baby Ender Dragon comes and knocks him in. He kind of shrinks down into the portal, kind of hovers there for a moment, and then gets sucked up into the portal, which in the end was kind of a bit strange, because everybody else kind of got sucked into the portal and just shrunk at the bottom. He kind of got sucked into the top, kind of went up into the top, which is kind of, I think, is a bit better anyway. But for some people, they may have kind of noticed that, but either way. So basically the battle's over, it's like, finally over. He goes to rescue the derp, shield shrinks, And again, I had the block breaking thing there, but again, it doesn't render properly, so I just practically deleted it. And then the derp is there smiling. But yeah, in terms of that amazing portal, so anyway, for the portal, if I expand this back out, again, that's rather long. Again, I used the light path thing, which I don't, again, 100% understand. I believe... Hold on. Oh, okay, so, yeah, it's basically the same thing here. It's saying it's using all this bottom stuff and determining factors whether or not this emission is going to affect the brightness. This emission here is basically, again, the same thing as I was saying before. If I crank that all the way up, it's not going to affect the actual brightness of the material. It's just going to emit more light, kind of thing, further and whatnot. But again, with the texture coordinate, kind of mapped it so that the noise, again I used a noise texture, will map along the y-axis, along a negative. So it's going to gradually kind of, oops. So the noise texture is going to go up. I also gave it, I basically scaled the texture so that it's kind of stretched. If I put that back to 1, I may have to go into rendered view here. Actually, oh, is that because, no, I may have to, yeah, so just pretend that's at 1, because I kind of stretched the whole thing. That's what it would actually look like if it's at 1. It wouldn't look like kind of lines, so I wanted to get that line effect to make it look like it's gone fast and whatnot. So, wait, what? No, I want 0.8, not decimal 8. Anyway, so I kind of had that effect, like a whole heap of lines. Portal beam was kind of sending something up into another dimension. Really, in theory, obviously the bottom is fine, but really in theory, this is basically the exact same as the knockback stick. Just a bit of different colours and whatnot. Again, I'll leave the enchantment tutorial in the description, along with the particle tutorial and anything else that I said and possibly forgot about. In terms of the mix shader here, I made it so it's partly transparent, so obviously parts of it, or basically technically all of it, apart from the completely white sections, you can see through, mainly because I don't, as soon as something steps into it, I don't want it to just disappear. I wanted it to, you could still see them, but you know, I wanted it to actually have the effect that it's a portal and not just a solid object. I gave it a little bit of a, oh yeah, so the volume of the inner, if you actually also notice, there are 2 cylinders. For the inner one, I didn't want it to be complete, I didn't want to make it seem like that the inner circle, or the very center of the circle, is just basically nothing. I wanted to give the volume something to it so that it, basically when something's in the center, it's barely visible kind of thing. So it's not always visible when you walk in, otherwise it's going to look a bit sketchy. So I made it that the emission within the center of this center beam has an emission to it. Yeah. For the outer one, again, as I was saying, there's actually 2 beams. The inner one, you actually see by the animation that there's 2. If there's 1, it wouldn't be that good. For the outer one, it's basically the same. Oh, actually, it was a bit different. In terms of explanation, it's exactly the same, but again, I mapped the texture. I fiddled around with the scale and stuff again to make it, I think, a bit smaller, so there's kind of more depictable strands and whatnot. I don't even think that's a word, depictable. I think I gave it a bit more of like a dark blue color, whereas this one over here is kind of more like a lighter blue. A bit more emission, I think it was. And for I didn't give it any volume because I had volume for the other one anyway. Again, why? I technically don't need that emission there. Yeah, everything's basically the same. In terms of explanation, well, actually that's the same, but in terms of if you want to know how to do this, I would honestly just watch the tutorial on how to do it. That's basically how I've learned how to animate. All the tutorials and just the overall animation tutorial, which I can also link, just the Minecraft animation. If you want to learn obviously non-Minecraft stuff, you can easily do that in Blender. Blender's also handy. It's a free program. You can basically animate everything as long as you even know how to make your own rigs or model, or the rigs already out there for you, which in this case they are. And I know a little bit about rigging and modeling, so that also helps. Yeah, I think that was actually the main last thing I wanted to talk about in terms of technical stuff. If I again bring back all my layers, thankfully it's not lagging too much. Oh yeah, okay, so I have one more scene. I won't show the credit. Oh, no, I won't show the credits because that's not really necessary. Part 3, go into prototype lobby scene. This scene is rather laggy, so I'm gonna have to hide a lot of the layers. Oh, okay, not responding, good. Okay, so basically the camera just comes in and comes over the whole lobby. Arbiter's walking up. Some of you may have thought that it was sad. No, I just want to clarify that he's not necessarily sad, I guess more tired. I didn't know what other expression to give him. It's just like, oh, it's finally over, he's all tired, and kind of comes in and is like, ah, lobby. I kind of wanted to kind of fill the lobby scene with kind of some things. Again, Silvermite's running over to me, again, because I talk to him a bit on Discord. Another person up here, he's just sitting up on the sign up here, falls off while he's sleeping, falls on his face. There's also, whoops, there's also a Gandalf over here. I found a Gandalf skin. He's just nodding away, tapping his feet, like he's listening to the kind of Gandalf, well, the epic sax guy music. Yeah, and then obviously the derp's being slapped by a fish. And I had a good idea for the alternate ending, if you haven't seen that yet, where he actually gets his head slapped off by the excessive fish slapping, so I wanted to include that for some reason. And obviously again, Sam's drinking his tea. He's reunited with his tea again. Arbiter comes over, and yeah, and basically here, he's just like, hey, you got my tea? This is kind of a, oh, he's got his eyes closed, it's bothering. Back in one of their animations, Black Plasma Studios animations, I think it was actually Sam's animations, because both of these two, they're both animators. It's back in Sam's animations. This is Bed Wars. Again, you should go watch them, they're really good. He came into the lobby and asked Arbiter, where is his tea? So basically I've done the complete opposite, where Arby has asked Sam for his pizza. It was kind of like, hey, do you have my pizza? Yeah, so he was like, hey, where's my pizza? I was like, he's kind of regretting saying this kind of thing. He's like, your pizza's over there, pointing to me, where I'm eating his pizza. Again, another thing, I love my pizza, so I kind of wanted to also show that, because Arbiter also loves his pizza, so, oh, he loves my pizza. Oh, that's my pizza, and basically just jumps at me and pushes me away. I had fun animating this scene, to be honest. Like, this is why I did enjoy animating. I enjoyed animating part 3 because there's so many different things about it. It wasn't like part 1 especially, where it's just a lot of excessive fighting and barely anything different. Here, obviously, I had a lot of new things like the Ender Dragon, particle systems, Herobrine with all this different stuff. And obviously I had a scene change for once. Wasn't in the Skywars lobby, the Skywars map that I'd been animating in for like literally, I have no idea how long, 4 months. Been using that map for so long I was starting to get bored of it. Yeah, so I'm again basically just talking to Silver here, eating the pizza, and then I get jump scared. I get pounced on by Arbiter. which I had pretty fun animating. Which, yes, it is actually animated, it is not just flying through the air. I push back, the pizza flies up in the air, there's a bit of camera shake, which is actually literally just noise. And it's like, oh, where are you? Oh, actually, yeah, there's a few Easter eggs in this. Oh yeah, so I might as well say now, you'll also notice that all the text follows the camera, which is literally as simple as is a constraint or something. Not a modifier, I think it was a constraint. If I can even select the text. Oh, text. Okay, there it is. It is a... Oh, why are you lagging so badly? Sorry. Okay, now, yeah, it's a constraint. It's basically just a locked track so that it locks and stays with the camera. So say I got the camera, I'm going to turn and auto keyframing off. If I just go around the text, it's always going to follow the camera kind of thing. Which is literally as simple as adding a constraint, adding a locked track, which I don't want to add onto this, and then setting it to Y and Z. You can play around with these, but most of them aren't right. I'm going to take that off the camera because I don't want it on the camera. But yeah, anyway, back to the actual text. Most of these I just added random numbers like 353 and whatnot. There were a few things though that I added. One person is playing it when it's coming soon. So yeah, that's not right. So I didn't necessarily want to hint anything, I kind of just more wanted to put that there to see if anybody noticed. But for those of you who did, which you can actually see that, I'm pretty sure, in the animation, when Arbiter's standing up there and surveying everybody, when he's nodding and falling off and whatnot. It's not necessarily meant to be a teaser for something I'm working on. No, I'm not working on a Battle Royale animation. You know, I'd like to work on another Hypixel animation, if we can get the maps, which is honestly probably going to be pretty hard, but, I mean, I got this pretty fine, but the other one was 617 playing as a reference to Arbiter, because his username is Arbiter617, and he was playing Knockback, which also note, Knockback is not a prototype lobby game. It's basically Knockback is a concept for a mini game, kind of like Skywars, where, as I was saying before, the main point is to knock people off the edge. There's basically no PvP, although the animation was based more on PvP. But the actual kind of game mode idea I had was basically just gonna knock people off the edge using bows and arrows, snowballs and eggs and stuff like that. Basically just knock people off the edge. Maybe there could be swords and stuff, but only to like knock people off the edge, not to actually kill people with. That's basically the idea of the game mode. But yeah, I think that's actually it. This is just an image. If I can select it, can I select it? You're not gonna. Oh yeah, I can. It's just an image. I think I got from BPS Black Blossom Studios Discord. I think I found that in help and support or something. I was like, oh, actually, that could come in handy. There's no Easter eggs or anything here. Don't mind the fact that everything's gone. I've just hit the layers. I do that a lot to make it run faster. But yeah, I think that's actually it. In terms of the credits, it's just animation of the camera. I messed up with some of the depth of field and had to render that myself. I had to render a lot of things myself this time around. Well, I didn't have to, it's just so much rendering to be done that I just decided to render some of the shorter stuff. Mainly the alternate scenes. I had to render again part of the credits because they stuffed up. But actually at the time of recording this, I've still got to do some stuff because I'm recording this basically a week before I release the video. Hopefully anyway. This is going to be like an hour-long video. But I don't mind. For those of you who have stuck around, thank you. I might as well actually discuss what my plans are now that I've basically finished this series. Obviously, I put a lot of work into this series, like especially part 3. there's a lot of work, not a lot of, mainly saying that because I had a lot to do in Part 3. I wanted to obviously get the behind the scenes done of the whole thing. I wanted to complete the animation. I wanted to do the credits in this scene here. I wanted to do the alternate scenes, because why not? Yeah. But yeah, in terms of future projects, for those of you who are on my Discord, which if you're not, if you want to, you can join my Discord. Again, it will be in the link below, in the description below, sorry. I recently actually, Animation Life alternate ending that I made for obviously Animation Life by Black Plasma Studios just recently hit 1,000 subscribers, and along with that, on Discord I put a message thanking everybody and saying that there's a possible chance, which I think I actually will end up anyway, and reanimating that episode. It will actually be different. It'll be a different alternate ending, and actually show the progress that I've made since then, since it's been nearly 11 months since then. So basically be the 1-year anniversary for that animation. But yeah, I'm planning to do that. I'm hoping to also make a gaming moments video of like funny scenes and stuff from Black Plasma Gaming and stuff. I'm actually probably going to try and get permission from them first, just to make sure. I don't want to actually start animating and then find, hey, you can't use our voices or voices from videos to make animations. There's also another one, the rules of animating. If you're a follower of Element Animation, you'll know what it is. You should go search it up again. It's pretty funny, and one of the rules that it was to actually come up with a set of rules and animate it horribly, which I'll do, kind of in the same style that I did, or will be a bit different, than I did with the Perfect Animation collab, which, if you've also seen that, you know what I'm talking about. But I also plan to do that. I don't want to spoil too much. I am also reworking the BPS apartment, which you saw in Animation Live alternate ending. That one that I made back then, it was honestly horrible. I did not know how to model or UV edit back then. Now I do, I understand it, and it's looking pretty good at the moment. Obviously, I've been distracted by this, so I haven't been able to do it, but I've completed pretty much completed Sam's room, kind of doing the living room and Arby's room and stuff at the moment. It's not going to look the exact same as Animation Life. I've kind of gone with a combo from Animation Life and their real life apartment. So, excuse me, I've actually given Arby his own room, and like there's actually like a couch and stuff set up, the computer's set up where it's approximately set up in their apartment. There's going to be like a kitchen and stuff, but Sam's room is basically the same. The layout and size and whatnot of the room, it's basically the same. But yeah, hopefully for those of you who have actually stuck around for the whole thing, sorry for making it such a long episode, or such a long video. Hopefully you did enjoy that, or even found some new found some interesting things, or even helped with some things if you didn't know how to do them. Honestly, I don't think I was really that helpful because I didn't explain a lot. And again, if you really need help with animation, for those of you who do animation and need tips, or just want to learn it and want to learn something from me, in the end it really comes down to your own style. You just animate along with the style that best suits you. I can't necessarily show you how I animate, because again, it's really just up to style. Like, in the end, it's just a lot of practice. If you go back and watch my first animations, which, don't do it, they're so cringy. Even these are still pretty cringy, but if you go back and watch my first animation, it was honestly really, really bad. I mean, it could have been worse. For the first animation, it was decent. It was my longest animation for a while too. It's like 2.5 minutes or something. I would, again, just recommend watching Black Plasma Studios' animation tutorial. Arbiter is the one who made them. He mainly goes over, like, kind of stuff like what I've gone over. Well, not necessarily that stuff, but, like, how to do lighting, how to set up a scene, how to import a world and stuff, how to use the Black Plasma rig, which is this Black Plasma Studios rig. He's also got like a quick tip tutorial on his personal channel, which you could also go check out. I've honestly just learned everything practically by watching tutorials, practically just these guys' tutorials, and a few things on like modeling and stuff like that. But yeah, honestly, animation for me, it's fun. It's honestly what I'm very passionate to animate. I'm very thankful that I can actually do YouTube and that I actually have the time to make animations. I'm thankful that I actually have a decent computer to do them too, and that I have some pretty good friends that do support me, although I don't know if they 100% support me, but I don't know, that I have a supporting channel at least anyway. But yeah, I'm honestly just chatting about my own feelings at the moment, what I feel about the series. Again, I'm decently happy about the outcome. I got rather bored with it, as I said before. I'm pretty happy with part 3 though, at least. But now I actually want to move on to some projects that I actually really want to animate. Some things that are going to be different each scene. I've got some lip-syncing ones, as I said, with the Black Plasma Gaming one. That's going to be lip-synced. I enjoy doing stuff like that. Also, some collab pieces. I've also, the new Gravity collab just came out. I should hopefully be done animating that by the time this comes out, so it could be released the same day as it, I don't know. Or maybe a week later, but I want to release that as soon as I can. So yeah, got quite a few videos this week or the coming weeks, so anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and if you stuck around, thank you so much for doing so. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. You were awesome. Thank you for the great support, especially on Animation Life will Turn Ending lately, getting that to 1,000 views. I would definitely, if say any of the animators watch this, I would definitely like to thank them for being such a big inspiration to me. And honestly a big help for getting the views. Help me get the views for Animation Life will Turn Ending. As Animation Life 3 was released, that actually really boosted my channel, so although that's not necessarily what I'm most thankful for. I'm just most thankful for I'm just thankful that I'm able to be part of their community and to actually talk with them, and that they've been such a big help and inspiration to me. So thank you if any of you guys are watching, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye. Wait. Come here. No. Bye. Okay. Enough mucking around.